So she's caressing Marco's croc. And this is the next sentence. Quote, I don't register what I'm doing before I've pressed a nipple through one of Marco's holes.
Hey there.
Hi.
What's up?
It's us, just your friends. Welcome to Say Smut, a literary podcast for readers and non-readers.
Yes, it is us, and specifically that's Sarah, and she loves books.
It is us. And that's Hope, and she loves talking to me about books. Each episode, I break down the plots of some pretty wild books to Hope, who has not read them. And yet again this week, I know she hasn't read them because I didn't even give her the book title at any point during this planning period. Also, correct. If you haven't been with us the past 25-ish episodes, I also pick out a topic for Hope to research. And then while I'm telling you guys the tale of this story, I spring the research on her. So she does not know where the research fits into our story. And I guarantee today you will not know either, because we are reading. Hold on, let me get the title. Mm-hmm. Help, I fell in love with a pair of Crocs.
Well, I mean, I think I could guess what's going to happen. It seems pretty straightforward.
Here's where this comes from, my dear listener. One of you is my cousin. And my cousin called me while she was listening to the last episode and said, where the hell do you find this shit? And I said, well, if you were listening to the podcast, you'd know I found it on an obscure Reddit thread. And she was like, I just can't believe you find this shit, yada, yada. And I know she's listening right now because she's a devout listener.
Yes,
but hi, I'm not going to name you because
hi, cousin.
I don't want to out you.
We're not here to talk to people, but hi, cousin.
Bye, cousin. But I said to her, I'm going to dedicate the next episode to you. And at the time, I had kind of threatened her because she works for a large company that might own a very iconic theme park in Florida. And I was going to do something along that realm because I do have that type of smut. But she also loves Crocs. And I thought, what better to do when this came across my TikTok, I thought, what better than to do Croc smut?
There are also, for anybody who was immediately curious, obviously did Crocs, but I did Google it to confirm.
I am not dropping the D word, given that certain people work for the company. I'm not going to.
I'm gonna add a little bleep and post.
I mean, it's not that shocking who it is.
I mean, what?
But before we get started, I want to give some content warnings. We obviously
this contains Crocs.
Actually, before we get into content warnings, I want to give a heads up that we are going to be doing a 3-part Bridgerton read along. And that will be the end of April into March. It'll be 3 different episodes. Our first episode is going to be a recap of the first 2 seasons, the first 2 books. And yes, technically the 3rd book is Benedict's book, and the show is skipping over that. So we are going to skip over that. I have read them all, but for the sake of our read along, I'm going to be going through the first 2 books. If you don't want to go through the first 2 books, obviously just listen to the episode with us. Also, we did Anthony's book back in our last year, like one of our first episodes. Yeah, I was going to say season 1, but my co-star has told me I'm not allowed to call these seasons.
Well, you can. It's just, to me, one unending season.
It's just one never-ending season. So anyway, the first part will be kind of a recap of where we come from, where we're at, and from the book point of view and the show point of view. And then we are splitting Romancing Mr. Bridgerton into 2 parts. I will release the chapters that we are covering each week, and so you can read those along with us. But we will be breaking down what we like, what we see, what are some maybe teasers that I was thinking about some teasers in my bed last night when I was trying to fall asleep. And like one thing that I think the show does really well is in season 1, you see that Violet Bridgerton is needle pointing and she's like, look, they're tulips. She's talking to Anthony and she's like, they're for Daphne. And like when she gets married and tulips are a sign of passion, blah, blah, blah. And then in season 2, Anthony brings tulips to Kate when he's trying to finally show his feelings for her. So like there are like really cool little tie-ins like that. And then there's also tie-ins from the book from that. So
Easter eggs, you could say.
Yes. And so we will be going through all of that. We will be going through what we hope to see in this season. We will be going through what we already know. I digitally attended the virtual. Now, how many times am I going to say digital virtual?
Digital virtual alternate reality.
I witnessed the
we bore witness to.
if you follow us on TikTok, we bore witness to the Bridgerton experience with the cast teasing to this season. We know the episode titles, we know some of the scenes that they're going to tackle, and so we'll go through all of that while we're reading the book. So prepare, hunker down, get ready to read with us. Even Hope's reading it.
Even me.
It's going to be a blast and a half. So I just wanted to give everybody a heads up that will be the end of April into early May, before obviously May, I think 16th, when the first episode airs, or the first half of the season airs, because they're breaking it up into 2. So with that said, we're going to come back to our Crocs and go to our content warnings. And obviously we've got sexual content. We've got some light foot fetish. Okay. We have violence in the form of a physical altercation like brawl. And I will be lightly mentioning that. There's also light mentioning of abusive romantic relationships. I'm going to be grazing over that because to me, it's like mention it and then move on, because it's not important with the current plot. It's just referencing how the characters got there, right? Now, Ingeborg Sem, Ingeborg Sem, I hope that's how the author's name is. I apologize in advance, because I do know some of the authors will listen to these podcasts and I don't want to ever offend them. So Sim doesn't have really any information out there. The only thing I could find is their Instagram bio, in which they state that they write paranormal fantasy books for 18 and up. I'm also going to let you know right now that there's no Storygraph or Goodreads rating, because because this is a deep fucking cut. Okay.
I imagined. Yeah.
You cannot obtain this book anywhere unless you go and subscribe to the author's newsletter and then opt into receiving the book. And then it'll get sent to your email by a one-use link. Okay. And so
it's like a digital speakeasy for books.
It literally is. I am so grateful to Grapey Delcato. Sorry, let me redo that, because I think it's Grapey Del Taco on TikTok, who came up on my For You page one night, late at night, recommending this book and explaining how to go about getting it. So this is 30 pages, and there's a lot in these 30 pages. And I promise you will never guess where things are going, other than it involves Crocs. Okay.
That which I had fathomed.
So are you ready to enter this speakeasy type book that we are
unlock the secret knowledge that is I fell in love with a pair of Crocs?
No. Get it right. Help. I fell in love with a pair of Crocs.
Oh, sorry. Help.
It's an SOS situation.
To be fair, we don't have the title up at the top. I just wrote in book that we are doing that requires Croc research, because Sarah has kept the title a secret up until now.
Yes, as I will go about doing sometimes. So, are you ready?
Yes.
All right. Cold open. A woman hears noises coming from below her apartment. Thankfully, she lives above her secondhand store. Okay. She doesn't know who might be in the basement below, right? It's just her store. No one should be down there. So she says, I'm just going to ignore it. But the noises continue. She says, I should probably go check that out. she creeps downstairs. All right.
Uh-huh.
And she's kind of hoping that the intruder will be gone by the time she gets to the shop.
Please steal my stuff and leave.
But she opens the door, and what she sees inside draws from her a primal scream. Before her are two beautiful men making love on a couch she fixed only a few days prior.
Wow.
So these men join her in screaming. Like, it's just a scream.
That's fair. I feel like on the one hand, I'm not sure how called for her scream is, but on the other hand, if someone primally screams at you, you are entitled to primally scream back.
And soon, you know, they're realizing we're all startled in this situation, especially the two men being naked on her couch. And one of them grabs a pillow and hides himself, you know, behind the pillow. And the other
Feels
one
late
just
for that, but sure.
the
You
other
guys
one
are
just
fucking.
lets it hang out. And she immediately tells the audience that despite finding two strange men in her store late at night, she's very attracted to them, and her panties are already getting damp. All right.
Well then.
So I'm going to let you know that this has a lot of unnecessary shoe references that sometimes hit and sometimes don't, like puns.
Oh, great. Oh, so it's like I wrote the book.
Yeah, it is like you wrote the book. The first one is, quote, the first one, being the man, throws a pillow over the other one's sizable shoehorn, end quote. Okay.
Really are trying to shoehorn the shoe jokes.
I know. Some of them made sense. Some of them I was like, okay, we're going a little far with that one. That's a stretch. Our main character, Chelsea, okay, is startled to find these men, and she asks them who they are. There's a long pause in which the men are just staring at her feet.
Oh.
She is, in fact, barefoot.
Well.
And if you need a visual picture of her feet, she's got a fresh pedicure. She's got some toe rings. And she's got a cute little ankle bracelet.
What year is it that we're wearing toe rings and ankle bracelets again? Tell me more.
It is, in fact, that this was published, I believe, in 2023 or this year. Not quite sure. But they don't give me any reference that would make me believe it is early 2000s, 90s timeframe.
Yeah, it is either the 90s, 2000s, or it's literally right now where those fads have come back around.
Yes. So, I mean, they're staring at her feet, and she's like, I mean, it's kind of nice because, like, they do look great. And they delay answering her question. And she's pondering if she should call the police. You know, because this is the time to ponder that, not, you know, when you thought an intruder was
not before you got down here and thought maybe someone was breaking into your shop.
Yes. And she says, quote, their voices had triggered a sense of familiarity, end quote. So it gives her pause. She's like, there's something familiar about them. No, you can't voice what you're thinking. You can't voice what you're thinking because I promise you it is not going to go the direction you think it's going to go.
Okay.
At least not 100%. So she's waiting for an answer and she's tapping her foot. And the more confident man, when I say confident, he's more kind of out there, just letting his junk out. He's just like kind of smirking at her. The other one's a little more timid, bashful, shy. So the more bold one says, quote, could you not do that? It distracts us, and all I can think about is how to worship your feet, end quote. Look, let's say, hypothetically, they were burglars, and they were naked burglars, and they were like, you know what? This is the perfect time to get it on, and they just decided to have sex. If you're going to get out of a burglar situation, and you are the burglar, would you just start being like, I'd worship your feet? Just to get out of it. If I was a
burglar, I would have left by now. What are you talking about?
I'm just thinking, like, from her mindset, like, is he kind of schmoozing her enough to, like, don't call the police on us, even though we're naked in your shop and we haven't even stolen anything?
If they are, in fact, burglars, just regular old burglars.
Yeah.
If they are.
So she has a bat nearby, like a baseball bat. And she reasonably reaches for her bat. And the other man, the more bashful one, says that she doesn't need to be scared. They just need to put on some clothes and talk. And then they kind of pause and look around, and the men are like, well, we don't actually have clothes because we just woke up. And she's like, woke up? And they said, again, we just need to put on some clothes and sit down and chat. But like, if you had some clothes, you could loan us. And she obviously has a secondhand store, so there's a rack of men's clothing.
Obviously.
So she's like, just dig something out, right? Dig something out. So we find out that the bolder one of the two is Cody, and he's kind of got like shoulder length blonde hair, and he looks like a boy band guy she would have liked in her teen years. He's about 30 or so. He doesn't seem that familiar, but Marco, the shy guy, seems super familiar. And to be honest, I don't know if I skipped this part, but for some reason I couldn't find his physical description. So I'm going to just go with opposites and say that he's like darker haired and whatever.
Brunette.
Yeah, brunette. They both have glittery purple nails. When they finally introduce themselves to her, after they've got the clothes on, they're sitting back down on the couch. She's standing in front of them like, okay, now are you guys going to tell me who the fuck you are? And they say, my name's Cody. My name's Marco. She goes full pause. All right. It's like a That's So Raven moment of like,
yeah, she gets a vision.
But instead of vision forward, she visions back. Okay. Because Marco and Cody went missing 20 years ago. Hope this is an audio medium. I have to always remind you because our listeners cannot see your face.
You should just, it's obvious to everyone that I'm in a stunned silence.
Yeah. But the smirk you had on your face was absolutely great.
Okay, continue.
They are the story that is told on every white girl murder podcast. There are theories about them. They think that, they were obviously murdered so many years ago. We've never found their bodies, whatever, right? Like they're that story, that local story that everybody knows.
They are on My Favorite Murder.
Yes. Would you like to know the twist? One of the many twists we're going to experience in this book.
I would love to know the twist. I'm going to reserve any predictions I have for when they do or just flat out don't come true.
What do you think the twist is?
I think that they're Crocs. I think they are Crocs. There's two of them. They don't have any clothes. They just woke up because they were previously inanimate Crocs.
I'm going to pause that thought on you, and I'm going to return and ask you again. What do you think the twist is based on this story of them being missing for so many years? What do you think the weird, because like we've already kind of addressed.
They were her favorite pair of glittery, sparkly Crocs. That's why they have glitter nails.
You are not, I'm telling you, you are 50% right, but you are also never going to guess the second 50%. Like,
well, there you go.
Okay. So
I got the 50 that matters. I need you to know that.
You think you got the 50 that matters.
I hope so, because at 13 minutes and 27 seconds, I wrote, they are her Crocs, and put stars by it just to get a timestamp. Continue.
Okay. Well, I don't think that's irrational to jump to that conclusion, but
Thank you. I appreciate that.
For everything you will guess, there is a second half you will never guess. Okay. So
well, then this is just a game I can't win.
No, that's why I picked these. That's why I picked these books. So as I mentioned, Marco and Cody went missing 20 years ago. Crazy story. No one's seen them since. Turns out Marco was Chelsea's ex.
Okay. Interesting.
Okay. They were teenagers. They were in love. They were having the best time. And then he went off with his friend she had never met before. And poof, never seen again.
Fascinating.
So in these moments where she's like, he seems familiar. The voice is familiar.
It's funny. Well, I don't know. I recognize the adult versions of men I've dated. So I figured that I don't know. It must not have been that great of a relationship if she couldn't immediately.
It's been 20 years.
Well, still, I recognize all of my boyfriends as adults.
He could have aged very differently. Also, you think this person's dead?
I don't think this person's dead. I think this person's a shoe come to life. Continue.
Okay, can you be? You're ruining the fun of our podcast. Stop it.
Anyway.
For the viewer experience, for the listener experience, can you please like have the fun with me instead of just steamrolling me?
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Thought I was having fun.
I'm having fun trying to keep things from you. I don't want you to guess everything. Okay, so they were teens in love, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And they run off. These two boys go missing. And then the rumors were that the boys were gay, but Chelsea never believed that. Of course not, because Chelsea was in love with him. Chelsea and him had a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm going to drop this in here because it keeps getting brought up throughout the rest of the book. Apparently, Chelsea's ex, Grayson, not like ex Margot, like this was a recent ex in her adulthood. Yeah.
Yes.
Once secretly filmed Chelsea talking about her relationship with Marco and then used it against her. And then she broke up with her ex because of it, like that. But like he also was super abusive in many ways. And he still stalks her, I guess. This is important. It's going to be a very weird, important piece of information. Okay?
Okay. Noted.
Now, Chelsea is hit with a flood of emotions, of course. She thinks this man has been dead for 20 years. He's now naked in her store. I mean, what, macking out with some other man. I mean, this is insanity. And she tells Margot, like, you've got to go back and like see your parents. Like, they've been looking for you. And he's like, I can't. And then drops this wonderful line, quote, as soon as we walk out that door, we will turn back into Crocs. And
I knew it.
Yeah. You know it. You know it. You know it. And guess what?
You asked me and I told you what I thought it was.
I know. And the worst part is that I'm trying to hype this up for the listener when I know that our podcast episodes are titled with the title of the book. And so they're going to see this as well.
That is true.
They're going to be screaming at me in their cars or doing their laundry or whatever. And they're going to be like, Sarah, we fucking know.
I have a more full-fledged theory, but I want to save it.
No. I'm ready for another theory right now. I'm ready for a theory.
Well, we said that this author, I think, sometimes writes, I don't remember if you said like supernatural books. I'm assuming that they went missing because they were transformed into a pair of Crocs, not that they were Crocs the whole time, just reanimated. Okay. Like some sort of like spell or curse or thing has transformed them into Crocs. You think that they've never been like they were not always Crocs. It was like a later in life transition. No, but that's what I think, but only because if that wasn't the case, then I have to assume that Crocs have existed for longer than we knew, and that they've been Crocs the whole time and then turned into a boy that she fell in love with and then turned back into Crocs, only to turn back into dudes right now to later turn back into Crocs when they leave the store. You know what? Maybe they were ahead of the trend and we all didn't know. And of course, I'm only saying that information because I know when Crocs started now. Yes. Okay. We'll get there. So let's take a step back. Earlier that day, in her search for secondhand items, you go to different places, you buy things and like, big treasure troves. She found a pair of sparkly purple Crocs that she brought home. And of course, it is these two men. Yes. So at this time, I will be asking you, please give us your Crocs report. Yes. Welcome to Hope's research titled Croc Madness, Footwear Fad or Croc of Shit. You decide. I like the Croc of Shit pun. That was a great one. Thank you. And thank you to my sources, which are Crocs themselves. Just Google searching someone who goes by the name Madam Vision with medium.com and Marie Lodi or Lodi, depending on how it's pronounced. One of those two at Well and Good for all of my information that I got for this research. Let's get started. First, who did this? So, well, Luca just spoke up. He did it, actually. He made Crocs. Oh, well, my research is incorrect. Luca actually was the Croc founder. He got witchcraft. Love him or hate him. You have Luca to praise or blame. But seriously, Crocs, the animals that we are used to, first appeared in Europe 145
Are you shitting
million
me right
years
now? Are
ago,
you doing this for a joke?
According to Josh Davis at the National History Museum. Crocs, the shoes, came into being in 2002 with help from 3 friends and the introduction of a material called Crosslight, trademark.
Okay. Sorry, I interrupted your great research, but I thought you were trying to do a bit where you completely ignore, like you were trying to be funny about ignoring.
I just do all crocodile research. No, just that one line. Just that one line for my opening.
I love it. Okay.
So, according to an article on Medium called How Crocs Turned an Ugly Shoe into a High Trendy One. Interesting title. By Madam Vision. Quote, Crocs were founded in 2002 by 3 friends who wanted to create a comfortable and practical shoe for boating and water activities. They acquired a foam clog design from a Canadian company called Foam Creations, which had developed a patented material called Crosslight, trademark. The 3 friends in question, for those who are curious who to blame if you happen to not like Crocs, for the creation of Crocs, were Crocs co-founders Scott Seisman, Lyndon Hansen, and George Bodebecker Jr. Hopefully that's how that's pronounced. And they all sound like buddies who boated together forever.
Oh, sweet. That's sweet.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, at least it came out of logic, you know?
Yes. So they acquired a foam shoe from a company who developed this material, and now they've generally got Crocs. But let's talk about this weird material. What the fuck is Crosslight, TM?
Okay.
Well, according to About Crocs on Crocs.com, Crosslight, TM, is pretty much just a material that can be used in wet or dry conditions that's like foamy. Most people have seen a Croc. It's the material Crocs are made out of. You'll never guess where the name comes from. Just kidding. It's because crocodiles vibe in and out of water, and so does this material.
Yeah.
Surprise.
And they float.
And they float. To quote Crocs themselves, Crosslight, trademark, technology held unique characteristics that allowed it to perform on both land and in water, characteristics new to the footwear industry. The company was given the name Crocs after the multi-environment amphibious nature of crocodiles, which I don't think is a surprise to anybody. That's what Crocs are named from. For people who have not bore witness to this shoe, the OG version of a Croc, which I learned is actually called the Beach, is
the beach.
The beach.
Okay.
The beach is like a near shapeless, almost kind of bean-shaped clog made of a rubbery material, which we now know is Crosslight, trademark. And there are rows of holes in the top of the shoe, possibly for ventilation at first, but now also for trinkets, which I will get into. They have a strap that can go around the back of your ankle, although some people don't use them that way and just kind of keep them up front and slide their feet into them like little strapless clogs. Up to personal preference. Now they come in like an incredible amount of forms, but just for right now, we're talking OG Crocs. So the Croc you always think of when you think of Crocs is what we're talking about.
Okay.
These shoes, which pretty much everybody can agree were super ugly. Even if you love a Croc, of all the types of Crocs there are, you have to admit that the original Croc is not necessarily the 100% most coolest looking Croc that there is.
No, it's absolutely trash. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, these shoes, though, sold out during their debut, which was in 2002 at the Fort Lauderdale Boat Show. And the success at this boat show led to all kinds of versions of the shoe now. So sandals and sneakers and boots. They sold out of all of these shoes at a boat show where people like to be wet and dry and need shoes to do so. And because they were so popular, they're like, we can make all kinds of these and we should make some more. Sarah, do you own Crocs?
I do not. But at one point in my life, when I was probably late elementary school, I did. Yeah.
Amazing. I have never owned a Croc.
Oh.
Would you own them again as an adult?
You know, I was thinking that as you were talking, and I would own them if I was super into gardening and I would only wear them in my property, on my property, and where no one else could see me, but I would absolutely not wear them in public.
That's fair. I think that's fair.
Thank you.
So we all know that these things started ugly, but what happened? So boat people and garden people and doctor people and also some normal people all enjoyed this new weird shoe. But like, it's pretty common knowledge that on the flip side, there's a really strong force of people, self included when these first came out, that just really hated Crocs from the jump, and like not really for any reason. It's a personal flaw that I have. But yeah, just like there were two very strong camps, and it was like, these are the best shoes. have ever been created, or these are the worst fucking shoes I've ever seen, and they make me viscerally angry when I look at them. To illuminate this point, I wanted to head over to an article from Well and Good to get a great quote from the article titled "How the Ugliest Shoes in the Market Became the Coolest and Most Comfortable Footwear You Could Possibly Own." Quote, "For over 20 years, the clog with Swiss cheese-like holes has garnered legions of both devoted fans and enemies. Some, like me, the author, have been on both sides. Those who despise Crocs deem them the ugliest shoe on the planet, while Team Crocs supporters tend to have multiple pairs and wear them proudly, gibbets and all. Like them or not, Crocs are an icon of modern fashion." And that is true.
Here's what I'll say. Hold on. Here's what I'll say.
Mm-hmm.
If I had children, I would absolutely throw them in a pair of Crocs, especially
Great
like
for a
under the
kid.
age of 5. Like,
Oh, yeah.
throw them. Like, those things are indestructible. They can get wet. They can be dry. They can, like, they're, you know, you got that little sport mode version when you throw the
Mhm.
handle thing back. Like, put that on a 3-year-old and they'll be fine. But
I like
anyone
that
above the
as
age of
sports
5,
mode.
well, you've never seen
Yeah,
that
sport
meme
mode.
where it's like,
No,
oh, he's got
but
his
I'm not.
Crocs in sport mode.
Sport mode. Gotta go fast.
Gotta go
That's so
fast.
funny.
Anyway, that's my caveat, I guess.
Right. So we debuted these bad boys in 2002. They're immediately selling out. By 2005, Crocs has sold 6 million pairs of these shoes, despite a horde of people who just absolutely hate them. Another thing that happens in 2005 is that gibbets, which I've mentioned before, have come into being. These are basically the little, like, what do you want? What do I call charms? I guess you could call them.
They're like charms.
You stick them in the holes of your Crocs for
they're
decorative
like
purpose.
buttons.
Yeah. Yeah, like almost like little shoe pegs, but for decoration that fit in all the little Swiss cheese holes on the top of your shoe. So, according to Medium, gibbets are these things you put in the hole of your Crocs for fun and for fashion. Crocs now own gibbets, so it's all one big thing, but it didn't start out that way. They were actually originally invented by a person named Sherry Schmelzer as a way for kids to spiffy up their own Crocs. Again, a great shoe for kids.
That was also a big thing, I remember.
Yes.
I mean, it still is, but I remember it being so big when I was younger. And like, I only had a couple of them. I don't even know what I had as little charms, but I had a couple of them.
Yeah. Make them spiffy with some gibbets. A really great sentence to say.
Yeah. Increase your fashion.
Increase your fashion with
Crocs.
With so many gibbets.
Yes.
Which just inherently sounds fashionable. So we've got more styles of shoes coming out. Gibbets comes in, and that blows up sales even more. And despite all of this, Crocs are still named among the 50 worst inventions by Time magazine in 2010. And this list also includes, just in case you were curious, segways, tanning beds, and asbestos. So I don't know. Is Crocs really that bad? I don't think so. I don't think it's as bad as asbestos.
I mean, are segways that bad? I didn't realize this. I mean, they're not great, but I didn't know that when you compare them to other options.
If you ask the founder,
my God,
he can't tell you because he sadly passed away falling off of a cliff on a Segway.
Stop it! I had no clue.
So I'm pretty sure that's true. Don't fact check me; it's not part of my research. Anyway,
sure that's true.
So in 2010, we still have lots of people who absolutely love to buy Crocs. Time magazine's like, these are a heinous invention, just like asbestos, bad for everybody. So how exactly did Crocs get cool? A great question. I hope we'll argue that the polarizing nature of Crocs helped launch them into this mainstream popularity. Like we've talked about already, we remember the hardline of people who absolutely loved or absolutely hated them. And I think that there's a real appeal for pro Crocs people to commit like 1,000% to Crocs out of spite for the people who absolutely hate them. So like, I think that has something to do with it. In my research, Elizabeth Semmelhack, who is the director and senior curator at the Bada Shoe Museum, said in an interview with Well and Good, quote, "I remember when they came out and people were just mad for them, but it was a non-generational embrace. They weren't thought of as the next cool fashion trend exactly, but they were being embraced as a really cool, or as a really new, interesting kind of footwear." And furthermore, Lucy Thornley, who is from Crocs, she's the global VP of Trend and Consumer Design and Product, told Well and Good in the same article that the road to Crocs coolness, like they were already super popular among a specific group of people, but Crocs also saw success with teens and college kids in particular who are purchasing the shoes more and more as time went on. So, older generations not really 100% buying into Crocs necessarily. Younger generations kind of coming up into it and being like, I don't know, pretty cool. Look at all these gibbets I could put on my shoebies. Everybody loves Crocs. Additionally, Crocs starts collaborating with designers, and this is like pretty much the end game. Crocs is now going to be incredibly cool and awesome, whether you like them or not. So in 2017, Croc gets the collaboration ball rolling. And their first collaboration is with a Scottish designer named Christopher Kane. And this move really snowballs into tons and tons of collaborations with Crocs, making it really hard to say that Crocs aren't cool. So many, many people have since done collabs. We're talking like famous people, we're talking brands, all kinds of shit. I pulled some of what I found to be the most interesting collaborations with Crocs. A lot of them I think people will be familiar with. When I think of Crocs, the first person I think of is Post Malone. Post Malone has done a collaboration with Crocs.
I didn't know that.
Oh, yes. Big Croc guy. We've got Post Malone. We've got Bad Bunny. We've got Saweetie. We've got SZA. We've got Ruby Rose. We've got Karol G, Drew Barrymore, Balenciaga, Justin Bieber, Luke Combs, and one of my favorites, Hidden Valley Ranch. Hidden Valley Ranch.
You know what? Of all the people on that list that you gave me, Hidden Valley Ranch, the least surprising.
The least, honestly, I'm not too surprised either.
No, I'm not.
Who's the most surprising?
I'm gonna be honest. Drew Barrymore, also the least surprising.
I was torn whether I thought that was very on brand or not on brand at all.
Oh, it's very on brand. And then I would think, SZA, I'm very surprised about. As a SZA girl myself, I'm very surprised on that one.
To close this out, in a reversal of our roles, I have included a link in my research that Sarah's going to need to find in the document. And I would like for her to click on it and please describe the Crocs that she can see. My favorite pair, the Hidden Valley Ranch Crocs.
Oh, first of all, it's for you beige moms. Because it is a beige Croc with little flakes of green in it, just like you would have ranch. With ranch. Yes, it would have like that little seasoning. And then one Croc has like vegetables. I think that's a chicken strip or a chicken wing. It's got a little Hidden Valley Ranch bottle. Maybe some pizza in the background. Oh, sorry, these are charms. These are the charms.
There's so many gibbets all over this thing.
I think and then there's French fries I can get on top with. And then there's also more veggies. There's even a hamburger, which I can accept. What I can't accept is the taco one, because who the fuck is using ranch with tacos at all? And I will step down from that argument if somebody gives me a good reason that they're using ranch, like at all in tacos.
Here's what I'll say. I don't know that this makes it okay, but have you ever had a walking taco in Cool Ranch Doritos?
Okay. Yeah, but that's a stretch. That's a really big stretch.
It is a stretch, but it at least proves some merit to the flavor combination of taco flavors plus ranch flavors.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Okay.
That concludes my whole research. Crocs are still really popular. Obviously, people are still collaborating with them. You can't buy these Hidden Valley Ranch Crocs. They are so sold out. A lot of the collabs are very sold out.
I can absolutely imagine. Well, that was delightful. That was a lot. I can imagine that somebody wrote a graduate thesis on Crocs at some point in life, and you surpassed them in knowledge just in these last few minutes.
My master's in Crocs, actually.
Your master's is in Crocs. Okay, so we're going to jump back into the scene where obviously our girl's standing there with two kind of half-naked guys because they've only really put on jeans and like maybe one of them has a sweatshirt. But she's got these men who have been missing for the last 20 years. They, they're making out, making love on her used couch. And they just dropped the bomb that they are a pair of Crocs. And if they leave the store, they will return into their pair of Crocishness. Okay.
I hate when that happens.
Of course, this is the line in which she doesn't believe them. Like, that's what I find astonishing about this interaction is like, it's not until after he says, well, if we walk out of those doors, we become Crocs, you know? So this is all ridiculous. And Cody, being his confident, arrogant, cocky self, says, well, let me just prove it to you. You know, let me just prove it.
Please prove it to me right now.
He gets up and walks outside. And like a Disney cartoon, he poofs into purple smoke. And
Yay!
on top of the jeans he was wearing is a single sparkly purple Croc.
I wonder if it has any gibbets.
To my knowledge, no. But here's what I'm going to follow up with. It's going to be a fast sequence of events. Okay, so I'm going to push through what happens next.
I'm going to buckle the fuck up.
Yeah, and shut the fuck up. No, there's a lot that's about to happen. Okay, so he walks out the door. Marco screams in agony. Okay, it is unclear. Okay, I'll go through this in the sequence of events as I read it. Marco screams in agony and like falls to his knees, and then he's like in the fetal position. Chelsea goes out and picks up the Croc, and like she recently put in a security system, so like the beeping stuff is going off, and she calls the security company, or they call her, I don't know, and she lets them know that it was a false alarm. Okay, you know, don't worry,
just some Crocs,
walking out the door on their own. She comes back in, and Marco is still curled up in agony, but now her ex, Grayson, is standing over him, kicking the shit out of him. Not sure what entrance Grayson came in, but also he wasn't kicking the shit out of him when he originally went down in agony. Pain. Okay.
Did he shoot him and we missed it?
No. Okay. So then
just checking.
He starts hitting Grayson with the single Croc in her hand. And then,
oh no, that's another person.
And then Grayson starts attacking Chelsea. And in the altercation, she drops the single Croc she was holding on to. And before she knows it, a naked Cody is beating up Grayson. Marco comes to help Chelsea, even though he's still in pain for some reason we will never know. I have to imagine it's something to do with them being separated. ? And then a security guard just happens past the shop and holds Grayson down until police arrive. Apparently there was a restraining order in place, so he'll be going away for a while. And after all that, they're left just the three of them sitting on the fucking couch.
Quick point of clarification.
I can't guarantee I can clarify.
No, okay, I think this one's an easy clarify. Did she tell security? Didn't she tell security that they didn't have to come and that it was a false alarm before? Or did she?
Yes.
Like okay, so they just came anyway.
So I guess this was just like a security guard on a Segway, just like
just zooming by.
Happens past. Also, what area are we in? Are we in a rural town that there's a security? This isn't a mall because it's like a business district where her apartment can be above it, right? I've got an abundance of questions of how this security guard just happens past. Also, how do you have two half-naked men? Well, first of all, one of them's now fully naked again.
Fully naked
police
again.
Come to get Grayson, right? So
yeah,
we're just not going to talk about these two because they're going to have to write their names down. I kept waiting for the moment that they were like, police took our names and our IDs because that's what happens. But what do these men have to say? Like,
so bamboozling.
Sorry, we've been missing for 20 years. We also are naked because we keep turning into Crocs, and we don't have IDs.
I'm not missing Marco. I'm Marco Croc.
I am Marco person. Polo, and this is my story. So there's just so many things here that went awry that I can't wrap my head around, but we're gonna push past because they're now all just chit-chatting. Okay, madness dies down. Cody is massaging her feet. Marco's cuddling her. Okay, just as you do.
That's what I do.
So finally she gets the fucking story of how they turned into Crocs. Okay.
Yes. Tell me everything.
So previously when she was trying to tell Marco, you've got to contact your parents, you know, you guys have families looking for you. Cody makes a slight comment that's like, not me. Turns out, and she kind of said, at one point I had met his only living relative, which was his grandpa, and his grandpa was kind of an asshole. So as a reader, you're kind of like, why is she giving us all these random fun facts?
What is very specific information she's letting us know about?
So finally, it comes around that Cody's grandpa hated him. And Cody kept him alive for maybe some inheritance thing. I don't know. Grandpa caught Cody and Marco painting their nails a sparkly purple color.
Uh-huh.
Now, Grandpa dabbled in some magic, apparently.
Yeah. Hell yeah, Grandpa dabbled in some magic.
Grandpa cursed them to turn into Crocs. Now, I don't know what Grandpa was thinking when he was just like, what should I turn you guys into? And like the pair of Crocs were sitting in the mud room, you know.
You want to be sparkly so bad?
I'll make you sparkly. So now they can only turn human at night if they are in a secondhand store. Very specific and attuned to the fact that she owns a secondhand store.
So specific.
Now, thankfully, they know how to break the curse. Okay. Grandpa wanted.
Wait, can I get a guess as to what I wanted?
Absolutely. You've guessed too many things correctly, so I didn't want you to, but I'll allow it. I'll allow it.
The only way to become a human again is true love's first put yourself on a human foot.
No, you are actually incorrect because she's already worn these. She's already worn them, and we'll get into that.
I bet they loved it.
They did. They felt at home. They felt at home with her. You know, and she also realized, you know, these Crocs mold my foot just perfectly. It's like a Cinderella moment. She's like, they just mold. It's like they're hugging me, you know. So Grandpa wanted to protect the bloodline and prolong it. She quickly assumes that this means she's got to get pregnant. But remember, we don't have a pregnancy trigger.
We don't.
Conveniently, the men tell her, you don't have to be pregnant. We just have to perform a heterosexual act. We're just like, okay, Grandpa.
A rocky start, you two, but
I mean, like, I didn't trigger warn homophobia, but I'm also going to say,
maybe you should have.
Okay, Grandpa.
Together.
Okay. All right, moving on.
That's so lame, Grandpa.
They decide she's going to take the day to think about it. Okay. Because
when the
sun comes up, they'll be back to Crocs. And all Cody asks is, quote, wear us today. Let us be near you. Your touch feels so good. It's been so long since we touched another human. Marco adds that they've never felt this type of a connection before.
I just want to point out that they were literally touching each other moments ago.
Well, so and they even said, no. They even said it's been a while. Like the reason we got it on was it's been a while since we've been human. Like, right? Like, because they've been at estate sales and all the, I don't know. Where are Crocs?
You know where you sell Crocs at? Estate sales.
I have no clue. I mean, they could be a vintage item.
Estate sale at a Victorian era home. With lots of old furniture and a pair of sparkly purple Crocs.
I've been to an estate sale that was a recent home, so you can't say that's all like that. But these could be antiques, you know?
They could be antiques from 2002.
Which was
a while ago.
Humble us,
to be fair,
in our age. Okay, so Cody gives us this gem of a quote, all right? It's a little longer. Quote, please let us have this connection with you. Even if you don't want to take this further, please wear us and let us protect your precious feet. End quote. As you can tell, there is definitely some worship kink going on here too.
Yeah, to be expected.
So Cody then naturally sucks her toe.
Obviously.
Yeah. And then poof, purple smoke. They are now Crocs again. And when the smoke clears, she realized she's wearing one of the Crocs that was sucking her toe, and the other one is on the ground. So I don't know.
Look, why not?
I don't know. So I'm gonna switch gears a second. How do you define dinner and supper?
Interchangeably as the same thing.
Okay. I have asked this question of many people because I find it actually very interesting.
I imagine it's polarizing for some.
I believe supper is more of a thing that's said, especially if you're in a farming community. Like, and it's also in my mind, supper is earlier in the evening and it's maybe more casual, whereas dinner's more formal and it's a little later and it's a little bigger. You know, you have a full dinner. The next day, she's obviously very aware of her shoes all day. And in the evening, I just hate this. I'm so sorry. I just hate this because in the evening, she says, quote, I prepare enough food for dinner and supper afterwards, end quote. You don't need them both. You don't need them both. These are not two separate things unless you're like, I'm going to have, it's like when they're like, second breakfast, you know, when in the Lord of the Rings.
11sies.
Yeah, it's just like, I guess we're going to have dinner and supper. What? Anyway,
I guess we are.
That's just a personal anger I have about this book. So she decides she wants the experience when they go back to being human to be wonderful, right? So she's prepped this food, she's prepped her home, and she's like, you know what? They probably haven't been taken care of in a while. I'm just going to clean them up. So she takes off her shoes and she's cleaning them with like, I don't know, a scrub daddy. I don't know. And she goes to bed with them. And if you
do.
Yes. Okay. But hear this out. If your Crocs are about to turn human and you're going to have a threesome with them, do you wear them or keep them off right before they're going to turn human?
I mean, I would like to make sure that they could consent, even though I know that they're really into at least my feet. So I would not start wearing them, even though that's how one of them ended, just as a common courtesy.
Yeah, so she decides to keep Cody on her foot as he was earlier and Marco off, and she's like holding Marco. And
great.
Also, what if you got them flipped around? What if you mistook which one was which?
You've only had them for a little bit. Trying to figure it out.
So she caresses Marco's Croc. She's also naked, I should preface too, because she didn't want them to turn and be the only ones naked. She was like, it's only fair that I'm naked too.
So considerate of her. Wow.
So she's caressing Marco's Croc, and this is the next sentence. Quote, I don't register what I'm doing before I've pressed a nipple through one of Marco's holes.
I'm going to say no gibbets.
No gibbets. No gibbets. She continues to do this while rubbing the sole of Cody up and down her bare leg. And then she, quote, moves the boat shoe to the river between my legs, end quote. Mm-hmm. Got him. Later saying, quote, I move Cody to the charm crowning my lining. Can you see how like the innuendos are like a little
charm crowning my lining?
Her clitoris.
Yeah, I understand.
Oh, okay.
It's a reach for me is all.
No, absolutely. Because she made a reference to lining earlier, and I thought she was like talking about the way it was phrased made it sound like she did stand-up comedy. And it was like a part of her work. I don't know. So the Crocs then turn into humans. And when they turn to humans, Marco is at her boobs and Cody is between her legs.
It would be funny if they were like, I don't know, fully mispositioned.
Yeah.
like she's just got legs and a face and like arms down here. And you're like, what?
I did think about that as well.
I'm upside down.
Our girl has a lot of trauma from Grayson, though. So the threesome stops and they kind of regroup. They agree to be kind of aware of each other and communicate and make sure this is a positive experience. Yay for consent.
Yay for
So
consent.
I'm going to do a little bit of a play-by-play because I feel like it's important to know where 3 people are in a bedroom and when you're working with multiples, you know? So as the foreplay is going, obviously they're doing like kind of a caretaker worship kink, and these men are just obsessed with her, right? We're writing
going back and forth between racing mode and not racing mode.
Are you
Whatever
trying
that
to
means
be
sexually.
like is in sport mode? Like when I was making
Yeah,
that
sport
reference? Oh my
mode.
God.
That's what I meant.
Oh, that flopped. I'm so sorry. But like going between sport mode and not, it's like, is that when they're
Yeah.
erect?
Maybe. I'm not sure what it means sexually for a croc, but I'm just putting it out in the ether.
If the croc band is up, does that mean they're erect? Or do you think it's when they're down that they're erect? I would think it's up.
And I would assume that there's not a 1-for-1 ratio of shoe holes to people holes.
No,
which leaves me with a lot of questions.
Oh, we've got questions. So
anyway, continue.
yes. So Cody at one point says, quote, "I alone have had the privilege of tasting your incredible nectar." I would never want a man to refer to anything as nectar. Anything, actually.
He's referring to the toes, right?
Nope. He's referring to between her legs.
I forgot. I already forgot. Never mind.
You thought you forgot that he was not in sport mode.
I was like, I don't have time to think about the crowning jewel of it's a whole thing. There was a lot. Don't worry about it.
For a visual, okay, for a visual of where they're at now, Cody is now kind of cradling her, like she's leaning her back against his chest. Okay. And Marco is in front and she gets some wonderful oral. Great. But to make sure we humble men, okay, she says, quote, "Marco has less practice with his tongue than Cody, but he's excellent at reading my signs." Humbling. Because how would you not be comparing them? You know what I mean? You'd just be like, that wasn't as great.
Left croc, right croc.
So Cody is very vocal. He's like guiding the whole interaction. And after some addition to for some lube, Marco puts a finger in her butt as well because, you know, why not? And it's not long until she gets her first orgasm of the evening.
Great. I'll start a tally.
No, well, there's only 2. So unfortunately, there's not too many. The tally is in fact 2.
1 per shoe.
As it should be. You know what? So now she's warmed up and ready to go. Cody now lays on his back and she straddles him. And interestingly, she notes that she, quote, "takes him out of his hood," referring to him being uncircumcised. Oh, love some representation. This is what our second book talking about uncircumcised.
Is that sport mode?
Is it sport mode if he's circumcised or uncircumcised?
I can't know.
If the band of the croc is up, does that mean he's not circumcised? But if it's back, he is circumcised.
Help me understand croc anatomy. Thank you.
If you're a croc, call us in.
Leave us a review, but don't be mean.
But don't be mean. So we love representation. They don't exactly identify where Marco is in the room for a little bit. It's like just her and Cody hanging, but then
everywhere and nowhere.
It sounds like he's just standing or sitting there watching them. And then they acknowledge that he's not participating. And it's not long until he's assigned to the duty of having butt sex with Chelsea while she's on top of Cody. Okay.
Sure.
And the end of the moment of them all orgasming, she says, quote, "I send a thanks to my copper spiral preventing a pregnancy." End quote.
What's up?
Also, the fact that the author spelled copper wrong in the book. So I was reading Coper and I was like, not sure. Nope, that doesn't make sense. And then I finally understood what they were saying. So
look, I'm bad at spelling too.
Post sex, they clean her up. They all clean up. And they're like, "We are starved." And so they go and warm up that soup she made. I'm so glad that they had a nice dinner, supper.
The first dinner for you to have as a nut croc.
The first the supper that they had, and later they had
The supper, not the dinner.
They decide to be a throuple, and when the sun comes up, the men are still human. Yay, they broke the curse. The end. I guess we're not going to address that they were missing for 20 years and they have to reintegrate into society, but
it's too much to explain now. They're going to have to take on whole new personalities.
Whole new identities. Never go.
I also assume that our Crocs didn't have any context, since the magic rules did stipulate they had to have a purely heterosexual act to become humans forever.
Well, like they didn't. Okay, the weird thing when he was explaining the how to break the curse was that they didn't say the word heterosexual, but it made it clear that obviously the two boys were having sex the whole time and that didn't break the curse, but she would break the curse. And so it kind of insinuates it's got to be a girl and a boy at least.
Or maybe it's just that you have to be the perfect fit for your person's feet. Kind of Cinderella-y, not unlike my theory from before.
But that wouldn't work either because she's already worn them. She had already worn them multiple times.
They hadn't fucked yet. You still have to fuck.
Oh,
but you have to fuck the person who's the foot that fits you the best.
Oh my God. Okay. Well,
I mean, I think that's very common, normal, easy to understand.
You did write this book.
I did. I've written every book so far.
Diversity wise, I appreciate the inclusivity of thruppleism, having a polyamorous type relationship.
MMF or SSF, which is shoe female.
Okay. We're about done. We've got like just a couple more things to get through and then we are done with this podcast. I do appreciate obviously male. Obviously we had some shoe rep. We had some tortured background rep, I guess, question mark.
Also in the chat, feet were there.
If you look at the age range that they were going for some of this, they would have been well into their 30s, maybe even late 30s. So love to see that these aren't like super young,
Yes.
We're being inclusive. Okay. Well, we're trying. Okay. What would you give the plot? Because I'm giving it a 5. For something like this, yeah, a 5. Okay. Smut, I'm going to give a 4. You know what? Take it back. 5. I'm giving it a 5. Because we did a lot and it was a threesome. That's a lot.
Inventive.
I'm now going. Wait, what are you giving the Smut?
I would like to give it a 4.5.
Oh, what took you off a point or half a point?
I think that it's like I didn't read it, right? So it was hard for me to kind of follow all of the orchestration of their threesome, like and what everybody was doing all the time. Yeah, I didn't love necessarily how much they liked being her shoes, but that's just because it's not for me.
I mean, how would you feel if your identity was as a shoe for 20 years?
Hard to say.
Yeah.
I need to walk a mile in those shoes.
Yeah, you do.
Literally.
So I'm going to ask you now because there's a link down there to show you what the cover looks like. And it can only be really viewed on Instagram and it's kind of a cover question mark.
Okay. I'll pull it up.
Okay, please.
Sure.
Yeah. Just what's on like the little graphic. Not
sure. I love it. All black background. Author noted at the front. In fun, kind of more handwritten-y font, it says, "Help, comma, I fell in love with a pair of Crocs! Exclamation point. A Croc erotica." Missed opportunity to call it Croc erotica or erotic Croc. We have what appears to be at least a topless woman. You can't see her chest because they're covered by Crocs, obviously. But she's like hands in hair, like, oh no, kind of a yikes face.
Yeah, but it's clearly like if I Googled or like, a stock image of a woman being stressed out while naked, this is exactly what would pop up.
This woman is both nude and a little bit stressed, which is understandable because this is a lot to take in. Over where her chest would be are a pair of light purple Crocs, and I think they are supposed to have glitter on them. I think they're supposed to be glittery. I found I hope I kept them pulled up. A fun pair of the only pair of sparkly Crocs for adults that I could find while we were talking about the Crocs in this podcast. And I'm going to share that underneath the link for the cover so that Sarah can see this good pair of purple Crocs that could also be used for this cover. But yeah, that's more or less.
I think you're missing the important part is that the Crocs are covering up the woman's chest area.
Yes.
So like we can't quite tell if she's quite naked, but like it's insinuating she's naked and she's got these two purple Crocs on her boobs.
They're also, I have to point out, for the scale of her body, really big Crocs. Well,
or they're very close to the
camera.
They're closer to the camera. Before I describe the Crocs you sent me, they're like geometrical Crocs with purple. They're purple and they could have some sparkle to them.
They're the only iridescent, sparkly purple Croc for adult.
Textured.
Very textured.
Okay, well, can you give me a rating for the cover? Because I'm giving it a 2. It's the woman just is too anxious for me.
Yeah, honestly. I'll give that a 3 because it still works and it still gave me a chuckle.
Well, that brings me to 80% and you to 83%. Let's round us out with what are our Say Smut moments?
I mean, the obvious one is guys getting magically turned into Crocs.
Yes,
of course. But the one that I wrote down when you step back and see beyond that part of the story is, I don't know what year it is, but it was so crazy to me that anybody was wearing toe rings and ankle bracelets.
I like that these are supposed to be sexual moments that we're calling out, and you're like so fixated on certain the plot points.
I'm just so open to all the different sexual things happening that the things that throw me off aren't the intercourse or related intimate time, and are instead things like me having to accept that a woman is wearing toe rings, and I assume a recent year. So.
I don't know the anatomy of a Croc necessarily, but it did startle me when he sucked her toe and then immediately got turned back into a Croc and then was just like perfectly on her foot. So then I have to imagine that the mouth of a Croc is his mouth. And like she just like slipped in, when he turned into a Croc.
Her whole foot.
Yeah. So I don't know the anatomy of a Croc, but I'm going to tell you that that's my Say Smut moment. I will also say the whole altercation with the ex and the fact that like police came and like there just happened to be a security person and like that all happened just really, really fast. And I'm not really sure where we went with that. So that'll be my plot Say Smut moment. But hey, that is our book. You can find us, if you so choose, on TikTok and Instagram at @saysmutpodcast. Additionally, we would love to hear your book recommendations. Send those our way. I don't know why I struggle saying this every single time. Send those our way via email at saysmutpodcast@gmail.com. Also, we'd love it if you popped us a rating or review on the podcast platform of your choosing, but don't spend mean stuff just to send mean stuff. If you know me and you're like, you know what, Sarah, you didn't pay for your slice of pizza last week when we went and got pizza, and this is my revenge. I'm going to be like, really? I'll just Venmo you. You don't have to bring it to the podcast.
Bring it to the podcast.
If you are my cousin and you're like, Sarah, I can't believe you dropped the organization that I worked for and your coworker didn't bleep it out. Don't drop us a bad review. Just drop us a nice one and text me. And
drop us a text so that I edit it and post.
Yeah. With that, stay smutty out there. Bye.
Bye.